4 years, the world wondered what really happened to Joanie Lamb in her final days. Her daughter stayed silent, hiding painful secrets that nobody knew. But now, after all this time, she's finally ready to tell the complete truth. This story will shock you because it reveals things that were hidden from everyone. Joanie's family kept quiet for a reason, but today her daughter is breaking that silence. If you want to know what actually happened, you need to watch this right now. Joanie Lamb was not just a regular person. She was a very important woman who helped millions of people around the world. She started something called the Daystar Television Network, which was a big company that talked about God and helped people feel better. Many people loved her because she was kind and spoke from her heart. Joanie grew up in a normal family, but she always wanted to do something big. She believed that she could help people through television. So she started working hard, very, very hard, to make her dreams come true. She worked day and night, sometimes sleeping only a few hours. Her family saw how much she cared about her work, but they didn't know how much it was hurting her inside. People on television thought Joanie was always happy and strong. They saw a woman who smiled a lot and talked about hope and love. But what they didn't see was what happened when the cameras turned off. Behind closed doors, Joanie was struggling with things that nobody talked about. She had problems that made her sad and tired, but she kept them secret. Joanie had children, and she loved them very much. She wanted to be the best mother and the best leader at work at the same time. But this was very hard for her. Sometimes she felt like she was not doing enough for her kids. Sometimes she felt like she was not doing enough for her work. It was like she was being pulled in two different directions, and it hurt her heart. Her family noticed that she was getting more and more tired. She would wake up in the morning and try to be strong for everyone. But inside, she was breaking into small pieces. She didn't tell anyone how bad she was feeling because she thought people needed her to be perfect. She thought if people knew she was weak, they would stop believing in her. Joanie worked so hard that she forgot to take care of herself. She didn't rest enough. She didn't eat healthy food all the time. She didn't spend enough time with people she loved. Instead, she spent all her time thinking about her work and her company. This made her body and her mind very, very tired. Nobody around her understood how serious her problems were. Her friends thought she was just busy. Her workers thought she was just focused on the job. But the truth was much darker than that. Joanie was fighting battles inside her head that nobody could see. She was struggling with sadness, and she was struggling with her health, but she never told anyone the real truth. Her daughter watched all of this happening. She saw her mother getting sadder and more tired every single day. But she was young, and she didn't know how to help. She didn't know what to do or say to make her mother feel better. So she just watched and waited, hoping that one day her mother would tell her what was really wrong. People always asked Joanie, "How are you doing? Are you okay?" And she always said, "I'm fine. God is good. Everything is good." But those words were not true. She was not fine at all. She was breaking inside, and nobody knew it except the people closest to her. And even they didn't know the whole story. This is the real Joanie Lamb that her daughter wanted people to understand. Not the perfect woman on television, but the real woman who was struggling and hurting and trying her best, even when her best was not enough. Looking back now, Joanie's daughter can see so many warning signs that everyone missed. At the time, nobody understood what was happening, but now it all makes sense. These were the clues that showed something was very wrong with her mother. The first warning sign was that Joanie stopped sleeping like a normal person. She would go to bed very late at night, and she would wake up very early in the morning. Sometimes she didn't sleep at all. She would just sit in her room and think about work all night long. Her daughter would hear her walking around the house at 3 o'clock in the morning. This was not normal, but nobody talked about it. Another sign was that Joanie stopped eating regular meals. She would skip breakfast. She would forget about lunch. Sometimes she would only eat one small thing the whole day. Her daughter noticed that her mother was getting very thin. Her clothes were getting loose around her body. But when people asked her, "Joanie, are you eating enough?" she would just laugh and say, "Oh, I'm just busy. I'll eat later." But later never came. Joanie also started talking about her work all the time, every single day, every single moment. It was like her brain was stuck on one thing. She couldn't talk about anything else anymore. Her family wanted to have fun conversations with her, but she only wanted to talk about the television network and the money and the problems at work. This made her family feel sad because they felt like they were losing her. People around her noticed that Joni was becoming more and more angry. She would get upset about small things. If something went wrong at work, she would yell and scream. If her children didn't do something perfectly, she would get very angry with them. This was not like the kind Joni that everyone knew. This was a different person, someone who was hurting and angry inside. Joni started saying things that were very sad and scary. She would say things like, "I don't know if I can keep doing this anymore," or "Everyone would be better off without me." Her daughter heard these words, and they made her very afraid. She didn't understand what her mother meant, but she knew something was very, very wrong. Her mother's appearance also changed a lot. She stopped taking care of how she looked. She didn't wear makeup anymore. She didn't fix her hair. She would wear the same clothes for many days in a row. When she was on television, she looked beautiful and put together. But at home, she looked like a completely different person. She looked broken and tired and sad. Joni also started drinking a lot of coffee and taking different pills. She said the pills were for her nerves and for her stress. But she was taking more and more pills every day. Her daughter would see empty bottles in the trash can. She would see her mother mixing different medicines together. This scared her because she didn't know what these pills were doing to her mother's body. Another warning sign was that Joni stopped going to church and stopped praying like she used to. This was very strange because she was always a very religious woman. Religion was everything to her. But now she didn't want to go anymore. She said she couldn't face people. She said she felt like God had turned his back on her. These words broke her daughter's heart. Joni also became very quiet and kept everything inside. She wouldn't talk to anyone about her feelings. When her family tried to talk to her about her sadness, she would just push them away. She would say, "You don't understand. Nobody understands. I'm fine. Leave me alone." But she was definitely not fine. Her doctor had told her that she needed to rest and take care of her health. But Joni refused to listen. She kept working and pushing herself harder and harder. It was like she didn't care about her own life anymore. She only cared about her work, and that was the only thing that mattered to her. The saddest warning sign was that her daughter saw her mother losing hope. Hope had always been the most important thing to Joni. She taught everyone about hope. But now, she was losing it. She would look at her daughter with sad eyes, and her daughter would know that something terrible was happening inside her mother's heart. All of these warning signs were there, but everyone was too busy to notice them. Nobody wanted to see them. Nobody wanted to believe that something was really wrong with Joanie Lamb. Joni's daughter remembers the day that changed everything. It was a day that nobody was supposed to know about, but now she is finally telling the truth. Her mother went to the hospital, and she went in secret. She didn't want anyone to know. She didn't want her workers to know. She didn't want her friends to know. She especially didn't want the people who watched her on television to know. It all started when Joni collapsed at home. She just fell down on the floor, and she couldn't get up. Her daughter found her and didn't know what to do. She was so scared that she thought her mother was dead. Her heart was beating so fast, and she was crying and shaking. She called for help, and an ambulance came with the sirens making loud noises. The doctors at the hospital looked at Joni and asked her many questions. They wanted to know what was wrong with her. They looked at all her medicines and all the pills she had been taking. The doctors talked to each other in serious voices. They said things that Joni didn't want to hear. They told her that she was very, very sick. They told her that her body was breaking down because she was not taking care of herself. The doctors said that Joni had been pushing her body too hard for too many years. They said that stress and sadness had made her very sick. They said that she needed to stop working and rest for a long time. But Joni didn't want to hear this. She didn't want to rest. She told the doctors, "I have too much work to do. I can't rest. People need me." The doctors also found out that Joni had been taking too many pills. Some of the pills were not good for her. Some of the pills were making her sicker, not better. The doctors were very worried about her. They told her that she needed to go into a special hospital where they could help her get better. This hospital was for people who were very sick in their minds and hearts. Joni's daughter wanted her mother to stay in the hospital and get help. But Joni refused. She said, "No, I'm not staying here. People will find out. People will talk about me. They will say I'm crazy. They will say I'm weak. I can't let that happen." So after just a few days, she left the hospital even though the doctors told her it was not safe to leave. When Joni came home, she told her family, "You can't tell anyone about this. Nobody can know. Nobody can find out that I was in the hospital. If people know, they will stop trusting me. The whole company will fall apart. Everything I built will be destroyed." Her daughter had to keep this big secret, and it made her feel very sad and very alone. After she came home from the hospital, Joni was different. She was quieter. She moved slower. She looked even more tired than before. But she still went to work. She still pretended to be strong on television. She still smiled and talked about hope and God. But it was all fake. Inside, she was much, much sicker. The doctors had given Joni medicine to help her feel better. But she didn't take it the way she was supposed to. Sometimes she would take too much. Sometimes she would take too little. Sometimes she would mix different medicines together. Her daughter was very scared that something bad was going to happen. Joni also told her daughter something that was very scary. She said, "If anything happens to me, I want you to take care of the company. I want you to make sure everyone knows that I love them." Her daughter didn't understand why her mother was saying these things. It made her feel cold and afraid inside. The secret hospital visit changed everything. It showed that Joni was much sicker than anyone knew. It showed that she needed real help, real medicine, and real rest. But she was too proud and too scared to accept the help that she needed. So she went home and tried to hide it from everyone, including herself. Her daughter watched her mother destroy herself slowly, day after day. She wanted to tell someone. She wanted to get help. But her mother had made her promise to keep the secret. So she kept quiet and watched her mother get sicker and sicker. This secret made her heart feel so heavy and so sad. Years later, her daughter realized that this hospital visit was a big warning sign that nobody listened to. If someone had made her mother stay in the hospital and get real help, maybe things would have been different. Maybe her mother would still be alive today. But they didn't know that at the time. They just kept the secret and hoped everything would be okay. But everything was not okay. Joni's daughter was getting older, and she was carrying a very heavy weight on her shoulders. She had to keep her mother's secret, but keeping secrets is very hard for a young person. Every day, she would go to school and pretend everything was normal. But inside, her heart was breaking into pieces. At school, her friends would talk about their mothers and how much fun they had together. They would say things like, "My mom took me to the movies," or "My mom made my favorite food." But Joni's daughter couldn't talk about her mother. She couldn't tell anyone how sad her mother was. She couldn't tell anyone that her mother was sick. So she just listened to her friends and stayed quiet. She felt very alone. She would come home from school and find her mother sitting on the couch, not moving, not talking, just staring at nothing. Her mother would be crying, but she wouldn't say why. The daughter would try to hug her mother, but her mother would push her away. This hurt the daughter's feelings so much. She wanted to help her mother, but she didn't know how. The daughter started to have bad dreams at night. She would dream that her mother was gone and she would never see her again. She would wake up in the middle of the night, sweating and scared. She would run to her mother's room to make sure she was still alive. Many times, she would find her mother awake, just sitting in the dark, thinking about sad things. At school, the daughter's grades started to get worse and worse. She couldn't focus on her homework. She couldn't pay attention in class. Her teachers would ask her, "What's wrong? Why are you not doing your work?" But she couldn't tell them the truth. She would just say, "I'm fine. I'm just tired." But she was so much more than tired. She was heartbroken and scared. Her friends started to notice that something was wrong. They would ask, "Why are you so sad all the time? Why do you never want to come to birthday parties anymore?" But the daughter couldn't explain. She couldn't tell them about her mother. So her friends started to leave her alone. She lost friends because she couldn't tell them what was happening in her life. The daughter started to feel angry. She was angry at her mother for being sick. She was angry at herself for not being able to help. She was angry at the doctors who couldn't make her mother better. She was angry at God for letting this happen. Sometimes she would yell at her mother, and then she would feel very guilty and cry. She would have arguments with her mother. She would say things like, "Why won't you get help? Why won't you listen to the doctors? Why are you leaving me alone like this?" And her mother would yell back, "You don't understand. You're just a child. You don't know what it's like to carry the weight of the whole world on your shoulders." The daughter started to worry about money. She didn't know much about business, but she could see that things were not going well. She was afraid that her mother's company would fall apart. She was afraid that they would lose their house. She was afraid that her mother would not be able to take care of them anymore. These worries kept her awake at night. One day, the daughter saw her mother looking at old pictures. Her mother was crying and saying things like, "I used to be so happy. I used to have dreams. What happened to me? Where did I go?" The daughter wanted to tell her mother, "You're still here, Mom. You're still my mother. I love you." But she didn't know how to say these things. The daughter started to think about running away. She thought maybe if she left, her mother would finally take care of herself. Maybe her mother would get help if she wasn't there to worry about. These thoughts made her feel very guilty, but she couldn't stop thinking them. She started to spend more time alone in her room. She would lock the door and cry. She would write in a journal about how much pain she was in. She would write about her mother and how much she loved her and how much she missed her. She would write about how scared she was that her mother was going to die. The daughter felt like she was the adult and her mother was the child. She had to take care of her mother. She had to make sure her mother ate food. She had to make sure her mother took her medicine. She had to pretend to be strong when really she was breaking apart inside. One night, the daughter reached her breaking point. She couldn't keep the secret anymore. She couldn't carry this weight by herself anymore. She was so tired and so sad and so scared. She went to her mother's room and she cried. She told her mother everything that she was feeling. She said, "Mom, I can't do this anymore. I need help. I need my mother back. I need you to be okay." Her mother held her and cried with her. For the first time in a long time, mother and daughter were honest with each other. They both admitted that they needed help. They both admitted that they couldn't do this alone. This moment was very important because it was the beginning of the truth finally coming out. For many years, the family of Joanie Lamb kept secrets that nobody knew about. These secrets were so big and so painful that they couldn't tell anyone. They were afraid of what people would think. They were afraid of losing everything. So they hid the truth deep inside their hearts and pretended that everything was okay. One of the biggest secrets was about Joanie's mental health. She was struggling with depression, which is a sickness of the mind and heart that makes people feel very sad all the time. But in those days, people didn't talk about depression like they do now. People thought that if you had depression, it meant you were weak or crazy. So Joanie's family told nobody. They kept it hidden from everyone at church, from everyone at work, and from everyone on television. Another secret was about Joanie's medicine. She was taking many different pills, and some of them were not helping her. Some of them were making her worse. But she didn't want anyone to know because she thought people would judge her. The family kept this secret because they didn't want to hurt Joanie's reputation. They didn't want people to think their leader was taking pills and not getting better. The family also kept secret the fact that Joanie had tried to hurt herself. She had thoughts about ending her life. She didn't want to live anymore because the pain was too much. Her daughter found her one time and stopped her from doing something very bad. This moment was so scary and so terrible that the family decided to keep it completely secret. They never told anyone, not even the doctors who were supposed to help. Joanie's money problems were also a big secret. People thought she was rich and successful, but the truth was different. The company was having money troubles. Joanie had spent so much money trying to help people and build the network that she didn't have enough money left for herself. This stress about money made her sickness even worse. But she kept this secret because she thought people would lose faith in her if they knew. The family kept secret the fact that Joanie was not eating healthy food and was not taking care of her body. She would go days without eating a real meal. She would only drink coffee and take pills. Her body was becoming very weak and very sick. But when people saw her on television, she looked okay because she wore makeup and nice clothes. Nobody knew how bad her health really was. Another secret was about Joni's relationships with people. She had pushed away so many people who loved her. She had hurt people with her angry words. She had broken friendships because she was sick and couldn't be a good friend anymore. But the family didn't tell people why. They just let people think that Joni was mean or unfriendly. They didn't explain that she was suffering and that suffering was making her hurt other people. The family also kept secret how much Joni was working, even though the doctors told her to stop. She would work 16 hours every day. She would work on Sundays when she should have been resting. She would work when she was so tired that she could barely keep her eyes open. But nobody outside the family knew how much she was pushing herself. They thought she was just a hard worker. They didn't know she was slowly killing herself. Joni's daughter kept a secret about something very important. She kept secret the fact that her mother was not the strong, happy person that everyone thought she was. She was pretending all the time. Every time Joni went on television and smiled and talked about hope and God, she was pretending. Inside, she was falling apart. Her daughter knew this, but she couldn't tell anyone because her mother had asked her to keep it secret. The family also kept secret the money that they spent on helping Joni get secret treatment. They paid for doctors and medicine and hospital visits, but they told nobody. They kept all these papers and bills hidden away. They didn't want anyone to know how much help Joni really needed. Another secret was about Joni's past. She had experienced bad things when she was young. She had been hurt by people she loved. These old hurts were still making her sick even when she was older. But she never told anyone about these hurts. She never talked about her past. So nobody understood where her sadness was coming from. The family kept secret the fact that Joni had written letters. These letters were addressed to people she loved. Some people thought these letters were goodbye letters. The family found them and hid them away. They never showed anyone these letters because they were too scary and too sad. Joni's family also kept secret the arguments and the fighting that happened at home. People thought her family was perfect and happy. But there was so much yelling and so much crying behind closed doors. There was so much pain and so much anger. But nobody outside the family knew about this. The biggest secret of all was that the family knew Joni was dying, and nobody could stop it. Her body was getting sicker and sicker every single day. The doctors had told them that she needed help, but she refused to listen. The family watched her die slowly, and they couldn't do anything to save her. This secret was so heavy and so painful that it almost destroyed the family.